All right, peeps. On today's episode of the Kung Fu Genius, the genius will be answering all sorts of hot nonsense live on YouTube. Lots of gems, lots of ankle socks, lots of missed punches will get you a face kick. Let's get to it.
And every
Boom.
day I practice martial arts.
Yo, Dre, how you doing, man?
I'm good, C4.
It's
We
good
in
to
the
see you
house
again.
today,
That's
live
right.
like 85.
Live like 85. We're both like a bunch of bamfs at home on a Monday. No
Yeah.
real gainful employment.
Bamfing it out. Bamfing it out. That's right.
How you been, man? We've been away for a couple weeks. I had Topher for the last couple lives, but figured
Yeah.
I'd get you on here. And how you been, man? What you been up to?
Woo. Been up to a bunch of nothingness. But
Been up
we
to a
good.
bunch of nothingness.
A bunch of nothingness. So
Awesome.
monotonous nothingness. But we're good. We're good. I'm keeping my spirits high. But
That's the way to
you
do it,
know,
man. So
KFG.
here we
You know
are.
how
Here we are with another live. I
yes,
figured for
sir.
the topic today, we would talk about film flubs in Bruce Lee movies. Now, the reason I decided to talk about that instead of like Wing Chun topics or normal Kung Fu topics is because I think those are better for the pre-recorded episodes where
Right.
it's a little more chill when we're live. The energy is a little bit more chaotic. So
Hey.
I figured it's kind of we do more of a fun topic when it's time to do it live, and then we can do more serious stuff. And we'll get back to shooting regular episodes. It's just as we've alluded to before. Dre's been busy lately. He's got stuff going on. I've had some travel and some other stuff, so it's just been really hard to record episodes. That's why we've been doing these live. So thank you so much for bearing with us, everyone who's into the KFG. So I'm gonna talk first or show some of the comments we have here, and then we'll get right into our topic. So here we go. Yo, look at this comment, man! Right off the gate. Too much Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee. Is there anything else you could speak about other than Bruce Lee?
I don't
We can
know.
talk about
Is
hip
there
hop.
anything else? Let's talk about thimbles.
Thimbles.
sewing.
You know, thimbles are difficult. They, you know, if you got to get the right size for a thimble when you sew,
Yeah.
you know, and then
Yeah, because
really,
you got to get the
that's
shit
really
to
not
fit
easy.
the thumb,
Yep.
and then you want to make sure if you're going with the needle, you don't want that weak thimble action. You want some strong thimble action.
That's right. That's
You
right.
don't want that needle puncturing through the thimble.
No, no, no. I hope people appreciate the KFG and Dre talking about thimbles. All right, because that's what everyone is here for. Definitely not Bruce Lee or Kung Fu. I agree.
Never.
I'm all Bruce Lee'd out. You don't need to compete with Beardy or the other one.
The other one.
I love how people think we're competing as if somehow we earn a living
no.
doing this, as if somehow this makes a dent in what I do at my school or anything like that. We do this for fun. This is basically Dre and I doing what we normally do, which is talk about Kung Fu when we're hanging out, and we do it in front of a camera. So the thing is, we're not competing with anybody because this podcast ain't making any money. All right. Not competing with can you imagine, you know, like, can you imagine if Drea came to you one day and I'm like, you know, my real MO with this podcast is to defeat Beardy, a nameless dude who lies about Bruce Lee to millions of followers. Like, this has become my life goal. Not raising my kids, not teaching Wing Chun Kung Fu at the highest quality, not like, you know, enjoying life and everything. To compete with Beardy, that's really what. And the other one, you know the other one, right? Like, I don't know, Bruce Lee Fight Channel, the other one, right? Okay. Yeah,
but I would definitely get you downstairs into like the quickest transportation straight to Bellevue.
That's right. Absolutely. What else we got here? I'll buy a KFG shirt from the Kung Fu Genius if he buys one from me. Why would I buy a Kung Fu Genius shirt from someone else? That would be bootleg. What do you like to hear the KFG talk about? So that's the thing. Like, obviously for the lives, we talk about whatever you guys want us to talk about. We just have a topic to kind of get things started, but we're not limited to that. You guys can write in, and I'm more than happy to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. But since we're here, one of our Patreons, Frank Ortiz, someone who knows you, Dre, from back in the JKD days.
Shout out to Franco.
Yeah, he actually came up with this idea. Like he asked me about 2 flubs from Way. I think one from Fist of Fury, one from Way of the Dragon. And then I wrote him back today, and I'm like, "Yo, we're gonna do that topic today." And he thought we were like psychically connected, right? And I'm like, "Oh no, bro, I'm just totally stealing your idea." No, it's like we are directly inspired by your awesome question. This wasn't parallel thinking or anything like that. So shout out to Frank O for the awesome question.
Yes,
so
indeed.
I'm gonna pull it up here. By the way, it's not like I'm an expert on Bruce Lee film flubs. You can just go to IMDb, and for every movie on IMDb, they always list the goofs and the flubs. So what I did is I just went there and I just took a couple because these are old ass Chinese movies, man.
I never knew they did that.
Yeah.
IMDb.
Yeah. Any movie you go there, they tell you goofs, continuity, errors, mistakes, all that kind of stuff. It's really interesting. Obviously, old ass Chinese movies, which were made in a rush on a low budget. Without a lot of care. They're flubs. Like when I saw the flubs on Big Boss, I was like, I'm just taking like 3. Okay, I'm just taking 3. I saw all of them. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is crazy. And there were a few that I had off the top of my head.
On and on and on.
Yeah. So I'll tell you something funny. Do you remember? Okay, so let's talk about Big Boss real quick. All right.
Right.
Big Boss, he's in Thailand. It's his first big movie, whatever. You know the scene with the prostitute, the Thai prostitute, right?
Yes.
Everyone loves those scenes. It's like 2 scenes, right? So there are a couple flubs regarding her. All right. So the first one is, by the way, spoiler alert from anyone who hasn't seen the movie, right? I'm going to spoil 1971 Big Boss for you.
Okay.
The prostitute gets killed by like the son, right? And in that scene, she faces with her back to the door, and then you hear the knife go, and then she gets hit in the chest. How'd she get hit in the chest with her back to the door? And apparently, there was a scene earlier when she shows Bruce Lee her boob or something, and she got like some scar or whatever. And then apparently, like in the next scene, or when you see her next, the scar's on the other boob or something like that. I read that. I don't know that off the top of my head, but there are a lot of flubs with that. You can imagine they were all like a little nervous in that scene, right? No one was paying attention. There was no continuity person in that one there, right? There's also like Bruce gets a deep cut in that fight scene where he kicks the dude through the wall, and you got the man-shaped hole, and he gets cut in the arm apparently.
Cartoon cutout hole? Yeah, the cartoon hole.
So great.
I love that hole.
Physics, man. As if there was a perfectly perforated man-sized shape, and Bruce just happened to kick that guy right through there, right?
Love it.
So apparently he gets cut in the arm on that scene, and then when he fights the Big Boss, which is supposed to be the next day, he doesn't have that cut on his arm.
Dude.
There's one
Wolverine
there's one. Yeah, he healed really quick, right? There's one flub with the saw, but this is kind of a famous one because he kind of grabs the saw and does this to kind of go into the head. Apparently, that was a famous scene that was in the original version, or I should say that they shot it originally. There's even photographs of Bruce with the saw halfway through the dude's head. But apparently that scene was like too violent, so it got cut out. And then now the big mystery about the Big Boss is who has the scene with the saw in the head, right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear now that that thing is gone. That scene is it will never see the light of day. You know what I mean? Like it's just it fell on the floor, it got cut out. Who the hell knows? No one will ever find out. By the way,
your
KFG
seafood probably has that scene.
What was that, boss?
Your seafood probably has that scene in the safe.
Along with the Hitman video, right? Yeah, probably, right? So let's see what else. Ice Factory C. Yeah, so that's like, oh, you know, he jumps over the wall when he's gonna go fight the Big Boss, right?
Yeah.
And while he's on his way there, he's got his crackers, right? And then when he jumps over the wall, he doesn't have his crackers. And then when he lands on the other side, he's got his crackers again after he kicks those 2 dudes or whatever, right? It's just like pretty amazing. Some flubs are like understandable, and some of them are like, you weren't paying attention to that? It's pretty amazing. So now I want to talk actually about the flub that Frank wrote about in the Patreon message. And that was in the fight scene with Bob Baker, Bruce Lee's drug connection. You know what's so weird? After you found out the Bruce Lee drug letters with Bob Baker, I can't watch that scene with Bruce Lee and Bob Baker without just thinking about all that stuff. You know what I mean?
He got drugs in his pockets.
Yeah, he's got drugs in his pocket. He's giving Bruce coke before every take. Here you go. Here you go, Sifu. Take their Seagong, maybe. I guess technically Bob Baker's Sifu was James Ian Lee. So I guess Bruce Lee would be a Seagong. So, you know, he's giving drugs to his Seagong or whatever, selling drugs to his Seagong. So anyway, at the beginning of that fight scene, they're kind of going back and forth. And then Bob Baker lands like 3 punches on Bruce, like bam, bam, and hits him, right? And then he fires either the 3rd punch or the 4th punch, I don't remember, and it misses by a mile. Right. And when he misses, it sets up Bruce to give him this kick, right? And then when that was the first one that Frank wrote, and then he goes like, he basically asks like, is that a mistake? Was that done on purpose for the sake of choreography? Because I actually had to go back and look at it, and when I looked at it, it's totally true. There's like these punches that land on Bruce, and then Bob Baker, perhaps in a coke-fueled euphoria, fires this left punch in the middle of nowhere. It goes nowhere. It's not even close. And then Bruce gives him a kick. And it's one of those things, you might miss it when you see the movie. I certainly don't remember, like, I didn't pay that much attention to it. And now that I saw it, I was like, oh. And then the which kind of begs the next question. Why didn't they cut it out or reshoot it, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if maybe they missed it. Maybe the editor put in the wrong version or the wrong angle, or I don't know. But it's definitely interesting.
It's definitely going to make me go back and see these movies again.
Yeah, absolutely. So you go to IMDb, print the list of flubs, and then watch the movie, right? And you see it with a totally new perspective. Now, there's another scene, all right? You know the famous scene in Fists of Fury, no dogs or Chinese allowed, right? And he can't go in. The Indian Sikh doesn't let him in, and then the Japanese guys, who are all played by Japanese actors, are standing outside, and then Bruce jumps and kicks the famous sign, which that scene was shot in Macau. All right. And I've actually been to that park. I even posted a photo a few weeks ago on Instagram where I was holding one of my students up doing a jump kick. There's no actual sign there, but the gate looks identical. If you ever go there, it's like the Louis Camoes Park in Macau. Very easy to find. Macau is a very small place. And when you go there, it's like exactly the same like it was in the movie. But this is a flub that I didn't need to go to IMDb for. When you see it, Fists of Fury is supposed to be like in the 1920s, okay? Right. And when you see that scene, everyone in it is dressed 70s style, butterfly collars, bell. Everyone in the background walking like the extras. Not the principal actors, but the background extras are all 70s out. You can even see like some old cars and like 60s cars and stuff like that. And that stuff stuck out for me because it's like, wait a minute, they're not wearing the right thing. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That was one of the flubs I picked up on. Also, and by the way, if you see the thumbnail of this live episode, you'll see, Bruce Lee about to deliver that death chop to Bob Baker, right? Okay. And the reason why I chose that is because that's also a flub from Fist of Fury. When he goes to kill Bob Baker with that final blow, I think it was a chop to the neck or something like that, he holds his hair by the top. He grabs his hair by the top of the hair, right? And then in the next scene, he's holding it by the back of the hair. Oh. All right, so it's like the location change. So that was the reason why I used that as a thumbnail for this episode. So Vincent Lee, what's up, man? How you doing? Lee, I hope I'm not pronouncing your name wrong. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. And looking at some of the comments here, a lot of people going back and forth complaining about, in an episode about Bruce Lee flubs, complaining about me talking about Bruce Lee. It's funny to watch people go like this, as if somehow that's going to change what I'm going to talk about. Chris Beery in the house from Ohio. We had a tomato warning or tornado warning.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about all the stuff that's going on in Ohio, because it's one of our students from our Ohio branch from Western Lotus Athletics out in Columbus. Shout out to Chris.
Shout out to Chris. Not Beardy, not Chris Beardy.
Not Chris Beardy. Cinematic Tendency in the house. Happy Monday. So good to see you. For you guys who don't know, he's got a great channel called Cinematic Tendencies. I also did an interview with him as well. So if you like movies like Van Damme, martial art movies and stuff, go check it out. Andy Lloyd, let's go. Thank you so much for joining us, Andy. Andy said some great questions in the past. Franco in the house. The dynamic duo was back. Thank you, Franco. I hope you're the Franco that we think that we're thinking about.
Should
All right,
be.
thanks for your awesome question, giving us the inspiration here. Oh my God, look what Garret T wrote here. Dre has hair. Whoa. So what's good? Is this your semi-employed look? You growing hair to be more respectable?
Yeah, this is the interview look.
The interview look. All right. So you don't think it would be better to go totally shaved for the interview? You think having the scruff is the better look?
I think you wanna look at your almost best.
Almost best.
Almost best.
You go to your boss. You're like, look, I just want you to know before we do this interview. Yeah. Right now, I'm almost at my best.
Almost.
Not quite there, because I need to reserve that for when you give me this job.
Yeah.
But right now, I give you my almost best. Yeah. What do we? So we got Lord Mon. I think Dre should keep the current hair amount. Wow. So a lot of comments about your hair here.
Ooh.
Oh my God, look at this Bradley Faulkner. Oh my God, Dre with hair. Dude, maybe we picked the wrong topic. No one wants to talk about Bruce Lee film clubs.
No.
People want to talk about the
his
fact
hair
that
follicles are on
Dre has
glass.
some fuzz on his head.
Nice.
David Reynolds, that's a
cool movie poster. Yeah.
That's returned to the 36th chamber. No, this one behind me is The Prodigal Son. By Tsai with Sammo Hung and Yin Bu, very classic Wing Chun film. That's actually an original Golden Harvest print from 1982 or whatever. So, because
I thought he was talking about my movie.
That very well could be Return of the 36th Chamber. That film was incoherent, much like the random patterns behind you, right? Yeah. Topher says, yo, by the way, it is Topher's birthday today. Happy birthday, Topher. What else?
Happy birthday.
Occasional podcast co-host.
Yes.
And friend Wing Chun Sifu down there in Florida. Happy birthday, Topher. I hope you have a great one.
That is right.
Yep, that's what's up. All right, so let's continue with our flubs here. All right, what else we got? Boom. Oh, so back to these are all Bob. You notice most of the flubs are Bob Baker related. Do you think that had to do with the fact that he was probably high off his gourd? Yeah, at the beginning when you see Bob Baker, he's like trying to impress all the Japanese students, and he like drives the nails into the wood board, trying to show how tough he is. Yeah. And then when he raises the plank, apparently you see that only 4 nails went through the bottom, so he failed at 3 of them. Also, as I recall, when Bruce walks into the dojo, when he first goes in there to lay waste to all of those guys, I think on the wall they have a photo of Morihei Yoshiba, the founder of Aikido. And clearly, when you watch the guys,
I've never noticed that.
Either judo or karate, right?
Right. I've never noticed that.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, I see that, and I'm like, why is that geezer on the wall, right? And I mean geezer respectfully, all right, before people get all upset. So now let's move to Way the Dragon.
Okay.
There's another flub that Frank mentioned, which is that in the scene in the airport at the beginning, apparently there's a girl picking her nose and picking a booger out of her nose or something like that, and that didn't get cut out. And he was wondering if Bruce had knew that, because Bruce was the writer and director. But who knows? I mean, those things were
them keeping it in just for giggles and shits.
Yeah, it's possible. So I recently got an issue of the Bruce Lee Forever Fan Club magazine from the UK, and it had this great article about the premiere of Way of the Dragon in Hong Kong, which was, I think, on December 21st or December 22nd, 1972. And that's interesting because it's kind of a weird time for a movie to come out in December, a Chinese film.
That date.
I don't know. I just remember shit like that. Well, part of the reason is too because that's the same month that Grandmaster Yip Man died. Grandmaster Yip Man died at the very beginning of December 72. And then about 3 weeks later, Way the Dragon premiered. So it was kind of a weird month for Bruce. His Sifu dies, and he got blasted in the Hong Kong press for not going to the funeral. And then he has arguably one of his best films come out that same month. So, but there was some controversy with Way of the Dragon when it was about to be released. And that was the interesting part of the article. Shortly before they were going to release it, they were going to edit a bunch of stuff out of the Chuck Norris fight scene. And because the Hong Kong censors, and this is the official reason, because Bruce was Chinese and Chuck Norris was a Westerner, they felt that Bruce giving those, I think it's always the scene with the repeated kicks where it goes up, down, up, down, up, down. That's the scene that got edited in the UK. Apparently they were going to edit that scene in Hong Kong because, and this was in the article, it would make the foreigners, the Westerners, lose face or lose confidence because they're getting beat up by a Chinese person. And this is the Hong Kong censorship board. It's like they were so kowtowing to their British overlords. It's like, oh my, we cannot have a Chinese guy just laying an American actor to waste for fear of what this is going to do to the poor psyche of our British citizens here in Hong Kong. This is crazy, right?
That's some weird fear.
Yeah, so apparently Bruce had to go over there, I think, with Raymond Chow, and they had to, like, you know, fight to keep that scene in. And this is all like, this was like in the previous month in November, they're still arguing about these scenes being in. And then December, the film finally releases. So you can imagine the stress that just a month early from the film releasing, they're trying to like take out scenes in from the fights and stuff like that. So very and Bruce's seafood eyes and all this stuff is a very, very stressful time. So
it kind of reminds me of a time where I didn't want to beat somebody's ass because they was with their lady, and I didn't want to beat that ass because I didn't want to embarrass him in front of his lady. I was like, okay, man, just keep it moving, bro, keep it moving. But it kind of has that same feel.
You were worried, right?
Don't make me beat that ass. So
yeah, it just reminds me a little bit of Clubber Lang from Rocky 3. Hey, you want to be with a real man? After you stand over his unconscious, bloody body.
I must have seen all the Rockies at least 50 times within the past week or so.
Yeah, you're in that phase of staying at home.
They're just they're just on like all over the place right now.
Right.
Every channel. Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, man.
Lupus Rex Regis. What are the chances of seeing Dan and Santo joining KFG? This is actually a question I get pretty regularly. Dre knows we get this question every now and again. I would love to have Dan and Santo on here. Yeah. There's just a couple issues with that. I know people who train with Dan Inosanto, Sifu Inosanto, in his school in California. So I technically have some connection, but I personally feel a little weird going like, you know, hey, can you talk to your Sifu to be on my pod? Like, I don't like to put my friends in those situations where they feel like I'm trying to take advantage of my friendship with them to get something. So I personally feel uncomfortable asking, and this is a very good friend of mine, just because I feel that it's just not right in terms of the relationship. The other thing too is that I know that Dan Inosanto's wife is essentially his manager, and she is like the iron curtain of you got to get through her to get to him. And I have no rapport with her. Yes.
Let me just point out that I've been with, you know, staying at home a lot lately. I've been texting him a lot. Just, you know, we've been going back and forth, and he's a big fan of the podcast, apparently.
Are you sure you're not Dyson? So here's the thing. So one, I think it's like, it's a little difficult for me to get to him in a way where I just, either if I just did it myself, I'd be coming off as like, can imagine how many people a month go like, hey, can you be on my podcast? Hey, can I ask you a few questions? Hey, can I interview or whatever? He's Dan Inosanto, and I don't want to be just another one of those. Hey, can you be on? You know how many? Can you imagine how many people ask him to be on their podcast every month? It's kind of embarrassing, unless you have really strong rapport with someone. I just feel like what makes my podcast anything special for him to come on? Two, his wife is kind of a bit of an iron curtain from what I heard. So I don't know. I don't have any rapport with her. So I don't know. It might not be true. It might just be a rumor, but I don't know. And then the third thing is like, you know, I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan, but I'm also the guy who did the Bruce Lee drug letter. So I don't know sometimes if people who don't know me personally, if they see like, oh, that's the guy who did the drug letters video, they might think I'm kind of a Bruce Lee hater, which anyone who actually watches this podcast knows it's actually the opposite. But I also believe in being free and open and transparent about our love for Bruce Lee and about even about the things that are not positive, because I think like that's all part of it. It's like people can be imperfect. This is actually what endears people, because despite the fact that they have flaws, they still did these great things. I think it would be less impressive if this person made no mistakes and was
admire
amazing.
the flaws more.
Huh?
Yeah. We admire the flaws more sometimes, you know?
Absolutely. So I don't know if maybe the perception among some Jeet Kune Do cats is that I might be some kind of Wing Chun Wing Chun guy who's a bit of a Bruce Lee hater. Nothing could be further from the truth. But I worry sometimes that if these people have seen my face on the Drug Letters thumbnail, and then they're like, not that guy. You know what I mean? So it's possible I might have burned some bridges in advance. So I don't know, though. But if anyone has a good connection with Sivu and Santo and can put in a good word for me, and it's something he might be interested in, by all means, go and do it. I would love to have him on there. I just don't feel it appropriate for me to seek that out. I would feel a little weird doing that. So
yes. I do hear he's a big fan. I do hear this. And this is
the word a lot of things. So does Dre.
Word on the streets in Edison. Word on the street is
there is no word on the street in Edison. All right, Axel Stone. Hey, Alex, I was wondering if you knew Bruce's limb length, especially his arms. We are the same height, and it seems Bruce is also the same, although I think he was closer to 5'8", to be honest. Yeah, I'm also the same height as Bruce Lee. It's actually 5'7.5" when you look at his medical records. He usually gets quoted as being 5'7". Sometimes people say 5'8", but it's 5'7.5", which is the exact same height as me, except I have a completely different body type from Bruce Lee. He looked like he had relatively long arms for someone his height. But in terms of what his actual wingspan, like did he have a 70-inch reach, 71-inch reach? I have no idea. But I don't have that information, so it would just be speculation of the worst kind. Boom. I see that YouTube bots are attacking the live chat. That's what Arnell just said. Is that true? I don't see any bots here on the live feed.
I didn't see them here either.
Yeah, you don't see any bots there anyway. Yeah. Oh, it's kind of, I suppose it's like, it's almost like a rite of passage that bots coming to you, right? Chat GPT takes over KFG. Interesting.
Chat GPT is a bot?
Yeah. Have you used that Chat GPT AI thing? Have you tried that?
No.
You can, so Chris Beery, who's here on the live chat, he should send you some funny. Actually, I posted them. Maybe you didn't know what that was.
I did. That's Chat GPT. Got it.
Yes, he asked the AI about Dyson.
Yes.
Yeah. The AI had some very interesting, interesting things to say. All right. So what else? Boom. Chris Beery. I sell drugs to my Seagong, but he doesn't know much about drugs, I hear. Yeah, I admitted that in the drug letters video. I don't really know anything. I've since doing that video become a mild expert in basics of cocaine because one, I did a bunch of research after that video, and especially in relation to Bruce Lee's death. And then out of the woodwork, everyone you knew or you know had used cocaine at some point. Like, hey, Sivu, like, actually, if you want to know a little bit about cocaine, I'll tell you. And you're like, and then they like tell you everything about it. It's like things you didn't know.
Yeah, people you wouldn't expect to be like on that level. You'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah, you're surprised what people know. Steve Richardson in the house. Thank you so much for joining us. Bruce Lee was very highly skilled in JKD techniques. Even though Lee studied Wing Chun for a relatively short period, did he perform Wing Chun at a very high level of competency? How skilled was he in Wing Chun? Well, it's a really good question. So, of course, the problem is we can only go off of the limited footage we have of him performing Chi-Sao, mainly with Taki Kimura, a couple photographs here and there of him performing Wing Chun, a couple little bits that he used in little pieces of choreography, like in Fist of Fury, Way the Dragon, and Enter the Dragon. And then, of course, we go on what his own students have said. So it's difficult to say because how you rate someone in Wing Chun is very subjective. You know, if someone is a really good fighter, let's say, like this person is naturally a good fighter and they know Wing Chun. Okay. So they have a very powerful punch. They're very good at closing the gap. They're very efficient and they have the stuff of a fighter. Okay. Well, then how much of that person's skill is their Wing Chun and how much of it is the fact that they're a fighter? You know what I mean? So the problem is like people always want these very objective answers to the most subjective of questions. Okay, there's so much to unpack there. If we look, did Bruce Lee perform Wing Chun at a high level of competency? Okay, this is completely up to the individual. And if you ask high level Wing Chun people, they're of course going to say no, because they're a bunch of jealous ninnies. No, he only learned the Chum Kiu, as if Bruce Lee could come back from the past into this time period, standing at his peak form at, let's say, 31 years of age, and stood right in front of the Wing Chun person who's just said that. I'm very curious if they would be of the same opinion in that moment. Not that physical fear of someone makes an opinion right or wrong, but I'm just saying, like, people say a lot of shit about people that they never met. And they say a lot of shit about people that they've never been in the same room with. And I think you always need to be honest. You need to discuss things based on argumentation and facts, and not feelings, and not wish thinking. All right. Yeah. There are people who practice JKD who want Bruce's Wing Chun to be high level because he's the founder of their art. There are people in Wing Chun who want Bruce's Wing Chun to be low level because he abandoned the art. So the problem is, all of these opinions that you get from so-called experts are completely filtered through their own personal likes and dislikes. So
keyboard warrior stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Bruce Lee was relatively skilled in Wing Chun, though he didn't know all of it. Do you need to know all of it to be able to use it? No. So what is my assessment? It's taken for what it is. It doesn't have to mean anything. You don't have to worry so much about what other people think. At some point, you can start to trust yourself. Stop putting so much confidence in the competence of so-called experts, because they're all seeing it through their own lens, and most of it don't realize that they're seeing it through their own lens. Boom.
Most experts really expert.
Who was on coke. That's funny. Excellent. Boom, boom, boom. All right, what do we got here? KFC Kentucky Fried Kung Fu. Wow, that's the first time that joke's ever been made.
Wow.
Someone send this guy a Burger King birthday hat. He gets the prize. All right. Boom. Adamant Underdogs. Dyson returns. Allegedly. Is Dyson here or is Dre here?
Where is Dyson? Is he here?
I don't know. Boom. The KFG makes up the KFG makes up fake Bruce Lee facts, signed not Beardy. Definitely that would be something Beardy would say, because first of all, Beardy is the #1 expert on Bruce Lee.
Oh man.
Shots fired by Garret. Throw some respect on Dre's name.
Please, man.
Is this live? Yes, it's live. Unlike most of our other episodes, this is in fact live. Mick Boswell, was it a cat or a rabbit he was eating in the graveyard scene? Fist of Fury. Actually, Fist of Furry. Oh. Perfect pun. I don't know what he was eating. Maybe meerkat. Who knows?
Meerkat, yeah. There's a lot of meerkat going around.
It was the wooded area of Shanghai in the 1920s. You'll have to go and see what animals were indigenous to that area here. Boom. Dre looks badass with that hairstyle. Dre, you're getting some compliments. I didn't think that people would make such a big deal out of it, man.
I mean, next episode, I come through and probably have a fro. We'll see.
Yeah.
Let it grow.
That could definitely work, man. That could definitely work. All right, we got a lot of happy birthdays to Topher. Happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday.
Adamant Underdogs. Bruce Lee's Kung Fu after image from Fist of Fury is actually Bob Baker's POV when he's high out of his mind. Oh, I think you mean this thing here, right? Where he's doing that thing with the hands, going up and down, right? Except that I think he used that on the final guy he was fighting, the Japanese guy, I think. Or was that on Bob Baker? It's been a while. I only watched the opening moments of that fight scene today to see that punch that was missed, the one that Frank talked about. I don't know, but maybe that was with Bob Baker, but you might be right. If that is actually a great observation. When you see Bruce's hands doing this, it's like it's Bob Baker's POV because he's high on psilocybin or whatever. He
did one of those old school wrestling moves where he throws the coke in like dust. Coke dust.
Yeah, and maybe that's what Bolo actually threw into Frank Dukes' eyes in
Coke dust.
In Bloodsport, man.
I was
Boom.
watching Bloodsport last night, man, randomly because it came on right after Total Recall. It was just like, whoa,
Wow.
perfect movie
Yo,
night.
Adamant Underdogs got the great comments. Girl picking her nose was totally written in to recontextualize the deep film meaning of the de-establishmentarianism of the underhanded political themes of the film #True Story. Yeah, Bruce was definitely that far ahead when he was writing Way of the Dragon. There were some deep themes in there.
Yes. What we
Lord
got
Mon,
next for Way of the Dragon Flubs?
yeah, Lord Mon, I'm starting
Okay,
up
Lord
on
Mon.
Way of the Dragon just to catch this girl picking her nose. Yeah, I'm gonna have to
Yes.
watch that again to catch this, right? So there's another flare. So let's finish some of the flubs and Way of the Dragon. So you know when there's
With the
that
gunman.
dude, there's that dude waiting in his house to shoot him,
Yes.
and then he like beats that dude up. Well, when that dude later shows up to the boss after he got beat up, his face is all chilly. He's got a black eye. He's got all scratches. But Bruce didn't hit his face when he beat him up. He did some weird like leg thing, which would have broken his. I think he did something like this or something like that. But like the injuries that guy has doesn't match what Bruce Lee did to him in the other scene, right?
No.
Yeah, and then there's
No.
another observation that was on IMDb about Big Boss, which is when after the final fight where the police come to arrest the mafia boss, all of the vehicles seem to be right-hand drive, including the boss's Mercedes and the police cars, which is clearly incorrect because in Italy they switched to left-hand driving nearly 50 years prior. And most likely this scene was shot in Hong Kong as a former British colony used it on the right side. That's absolutely true. So that I know for a fact. What I think people sometimes forget is they only shot some exterior scenes in Rome. They got on a plane to shoot like the Colosseum from the outside and the fountains. It just have some establishing exterior shots. But they did that totally without permits. All of that stuff was shot. Like Golden Harvest was shooting without permits. And they went and shot all those exteriors there, but they didn't actually shoot the fight scene in the Colosseum. Sorry to tell anyone who didn't know that for whatever reason.
Oh, man.
And all of the other scenes, like in the Chinese restaurant and all that stuff, that's all shot in Hong Kong, man. So really, that besides those exterior established scenes and the establishing scenes and maybe even the airport scene, that was all shot in Hong Kong. So he's absolutely right. As a matter of fact, the Mercedes you see at the end is actually Bruce Lee's Mercedes. And you know the crazy thing about it? You can see the license plate, and he didn't like blur it out or hide it. And that's it, like AZ6150, whatever the license plate, which was Bruce Lee's. You see photos of Bruce Lee with his car in Hong Kong, and it's the same license plate. It's like he didn't even like care to black out his license plate for his own movie or something like that.
They didn't make that in the Flubs list though. Right?
No, they didn't. Well, apparently the person who wrote that flub didn't know. Like, actually, the Mercedes was Bruce Lee's Mercedes, which was gifted to him from Raymond Chow. But yeah, you're right. All of those cars were on the other side of the road. You can see clearly that scene when where they have that fight scene before they go to the Coliseum, where Wang In-sik and all those guys are out there, where the guy stabs the waiter and all that stuff. That's most likely shot in Sai Kung in Hong Kong. Like this big open field out in Sai Kung. Or if someone out there knows maybe more specifically where it is, I assume it was shot out in Sai Kung because it looks like the same location, the same Sai Kung location where Bruce shot some other stuff, some still photographs with the nunchucks and stuff. So I'm just assuming it's the same spot. But yeah, absolutely right. Majority of that film was shot. When you see them fighting in the Coliseum, it's just a fake background of the Coliseum, but that's at Golden Harvest Studios. So let me catch up on comments here a little bit.
Yes.
Boom. All right. So the Norris fight was shot from another camera angle. It's out there amongst collectors. Most likely. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff there amongst collectors. By the way, the original idea for Way the Dragon did not include actually fighting any Westerners. Originally, Bruce wanted the bad guy to be a Japanese karate guy. But perhaps at the last minute, they thought it was a better idea to kind of fight like the big Guaylo, the big American. But in Bruce's original ideas for Way the Dragon, he actually wanted to have the actor Seng, who was a famous Kung Fu actor at that time, play the bad guy. And he wanted Lam Cheng-ying to play the role that Wang In-sik played. So the original idea was actually that those were all Japanese guys, even though they would be played typically by Chinese guys. Cinematic Tendency, thanks for the shout out, KFG. Tomorrow on my YouTube channel, I'll be showing my son, 8, the trailer of Game of Death. That's right. He shows his son different movies and trailers and stuff like that, introducing him to the best stuff that's out there. So that is awesome.
Oh, okay.
Jimmy Shaw, hey there, Kung Fu
out.
Genius. Did you hear the story about Bruce Lee beating Bolo Yeung in an arm wrestling contest? It was told both on the Bruce Lee Real Fight channel, also by Golden Bell channel. I did hear that story. And as a matter of fact, Dre's hero, Chun Wai-mun, is supposedly the one who witnessed it. Although I never heard of it. I never heard any story of Chun Wai-mun showing up to the set of Enter the Dragon, but not every, there was no internet back then. So like every single movement someone did wasn't like posted on Twitter that day. Like, hey, I'm on the set of Enter the Dragon. So I mean, the thing is, we literally don't know.
If only we had Twitter back then.
If only we had Twitter back then.
They had Twitter.
Yeah. I quit Twitter about 6 months ago. I was like, I can't deal with this.
I heard.
Not awful place to be. If Twitter were a place, you would never go there. My girls just walked in, so.
Hey!
Yes, they are here somewhere. So anyway, yeah, I did hear Bolo supposedly losing to Bruce Lee in an arm wrestling contest. Whether that's true or not, who knows? Supposedly, Chun Wai-mun told the story, but the problem is
broke Bolo's brain.
This is all third hand, fourth hand stuff. Well, a couple things. If you look at Bolo around that time, Bolo was a professional bodybuilder. Okay, I think he was Mr. Hong Kong for a number of years in a row. But if you know anything about bodybuilding and you know anything about the physiques of bodybuilders, then you would know that Bolo's physique in Enter the Dragon was what they call way off season. Okay. When you see, if you see a Bolo's son, David Young, who's like a Bolo Jr., he calls himself, he's on Instagram. He'll occasionally post these amazing old photos of his dad back in the bodybuilding days from the 70s. And when you see Bolo, when he was like in peak form for competition, he was cut and striated and just muscle on top of muscle. I mean, very impressive. But when you look at him and Enter the Dragon, he was big. He was Bolo, but he was actually not in competition shape. He was not. He was very lean. He was a little on the heavy side and stuff. So it's possible that an off-season Bolo who's not training that much, and Bruce is training lots of tendon ligament strength like a maniac, might have had an edge, especially if Bruce had some better, because arm wrestling also has some technique involved. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. The problem is that this is a story told to someone, told to someone, told to someone, told to someone who changed it 5 times. Who knows? Who knows? So it's always difficult to quantify these things. Random Q, whatever happened to George Tan? I actually talked about this on a recent episode on one of our pre-recorded episodes. Might have been the last one with you, might have been with Mikey Deane. George Tan, I was given his contact information from Siva Learning 20 years ago, and I've not been able to find this guy who produced a couple documentaries, including some about Bruce Lee's death. Apparently is kind of an insider and lived at least at some point in New York. But I cannot for the life of me get a hold of this guy. But to be fair, I also haven't tried for about 18 years. KFG doesn't want to ruin his shot to ask Dan. I really would love to see him on the show someday. Me too, man. But like, if anyone is out there who's not going to ruin a shot, like people who legitimately know him, don't send him an email and be like, yo, will you be on the KFG podcast? And then send me an email. Email them. They said don't. Okay. Only if you have a personal relationship and it's not, weird.
Not just like, okay. Don't
Young
make it weird,
in the house. In the scene in Fist of Fury, Bruce kicks a sign. It's actually Yunhua playing one of the Japanese actors. Yes, you can see Yunhua, famously Bruce Lee stuntman from Enter the Dragon, is one of the Japanese guys there. By the way, even though that gate scene was shot in Macau, when Bruce actually jumps in the air and kicks the sign, you only see the sky in the background. That was shot at Golden Harvest Studios. So the kick that breaks the sign was shot in Hong Kong. The entrance scene is in Macau there, right?
They tricked us again, man.
They tricked us
Camera
again.
tricks.
KFG asked Shannon
to
forget Siva Santo, she can plug her Be Water book. So I don't know how much you know about my podcast, but year ago or 2 years almost, I did something called the Bruce Lee Drug Letters. All right. And I think that disqualifies Shannon from ever coming on my show. You need to read the room a little bit, okay? I've also not always said the nicest things about Shannon. Obviously, she's the daughter of Bruce Lee, so respect to her for that. But I don't respect all of the decisions she's made in regards to the Bruce Lee estate. That's not a personal attack. I just feel that there are a lot of times when she did not make the right decision. Now, of course, look, if any one of us were in charge of the Bruce Lee estate, would every single decision we make be the correct thing? Would all the fans love it? Absolutely not. I understand what a difficult position she's in, but I also think that in terms of respecting her father, she could do a lot better. And to be honest, all right, I'm not interested in a book written about Bruce Lee by Shannon. Shannon was, 3 years old when her father passed away? There are people alive today who knew Bruce Lee way better than she did. And she can look at his notes. She has access to all that stuff. But what does she have to offer in terms of insight that people who knew Bruce Lee very, very well, or just looking at Bruce Lee's own notes, wouldn't give you in a better way? All right. I'm not super interested in what she has to say. This is also the woman who sold her father's likeness to Johnny Walker and let him speak Mandarin in the commercial. Okay?
No.
So no. Okay.
People, let me ask you a question. Last time you hung out with her, did she confront you about your the way you feel about her?
No, because when I met Shannon, it was before we did this podcast.
No,
so
man.
She didn't. The only way she would have known me is that every time on Twitter, when she made a mistake, a factual error about her father, I would always retweet it with the correct thing. Like she would put like a photo of her father with Raymond Chow and that actor, who's that Eurasian actress, Nancy Kwan. And then so there's a photo of Bruce and Nancy Kwan and Raymond Chow, and she's like on the set of The Wrecking Crew, which was like in 1968 or 1969. But that's a problem because Bruce Lee did not meet Raymond Chow until 1971 or 1970 at the earliest. So how could and why would Raymond Chow be on the set of The Wrecking Crew in Los Angeles in 1969 before Bruce Lee even met him? Nancy Kwan actually went to Hong Kong around the time Bruce Lee was there. I think she had even made some films, and Bruce met with Nancy Kwan in Hong Kong a number of times. Oddly enough, Nancy Kwan plays Ruby Chow in Dragon the Bruce Lee story, and they actually really knew each other in real life, which is kind of interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. Arnell, just like people making Mike Tyson pronunciation jokes when Mike Tyson is not around. Yeah. As I've said many times in the podcast, how does every Mike Tyson joke begin? By looking over your shoulder.
This is why Eddie Murphy is the true GOAT.
Eddie Murphy?
Eddie Murphy was the only one that had the balls to make a Tyson joke right next to him.
That's right. And also back when Tyson was a little more the Tyson of old. The Tyson nowadays, I would never imitate Tyson even in front of Tyson today. But if there's a Tyson to do that in front of, it would be Mike Tyson today, not Mike Tyson 20 years ago.
He's so docile these days. He just wants to chill. He doesn't want to go off at the handle anymore. But back then, that's all he wanted to do. So yeah.
Right. Lord Vaughn,
Murphy, man.
I could have sworn I read a publication that said Bruce Lee could bench press 160 pounds for 3 sets of 10 reps. Am I the only one who ever saw this? Yeah, but I mean, given Bruce Lee's size and strength, that's not super impressive. I'm not like a big bodybuilder type, but like that's also what I bench. So, I would assume Bruce could bench what I can bench too for 3 sets of 10 reps. This is nothing crazy. This is absolutely nothing crazy. Boom.
That's some low weight you benching there, Seafood.
That's well, bro, like everyone says, if you lift weights too much, you're going to be all muscle bound. You're not going to be able to move, bro, which is like, no. Anyway. What else we got here? The Humble Batman Collector. Hi from the UK. I trained with Dan and Larry Hartzell late 80s and Bob Breen in the UK. It put me on the right track. Didn't think big at the time, but great times. How did Bruce inspire you at the beginning? Well, that's a great question. To say how did Bruce inspire me at the beginning? Bruce was my inspiration at the beginning because
you were like sick at home as an 8-year-old.
I was sick at home, and my dad rented Enter the Dragon. I saw Enter the Dragon, and I was like, "What is this sorcery? I want this."
You weren't sick anymore after that.
Yeah, everything I did. The fact that I teach Wing Chun for a living, the fact that I'm overly obsessed with martial arts in general, and the fact that I have this podcast and regularly talk about Bruce Lee and obviously other topics that are near to my career, like Wing Chun, is all because of that inspiration I got when I was 8 years old.
Knitting.
And and even my love for other martial arts, like what I often find disappointing about Wing Chun people is you can't have a conversation with them about anything outside of Wing Chun, because either they think that Wing Chun is the best, F the rest, all right, which is just an attitude that I hate. Even if people think that's just like, it's such an ignorant attitude to start.
You know what I think is the best martial art still to this day? Taibo.
Everyone knows that though. Taibo is the best.
It's always been the best.
We are all lagging behind Taibo by far. And the other thing is, like, so most Wing Chun people, they don't think any other martial art is worth talking about. They also rarely have any deep knowledge of anything outside of Wing Chun. And sometimes I find even a lot of Wing Chun people don't even have that much knowledge about their own lineage, like the history and the nuts and bolts, let alone anyone else's. So I find the fact that I'm into all these different things also a huge inspiration from Bruce Lee, looking at other stuff and going like, I feel just as comfortable sitting and watching a judo match, watching combat karate, watching MMA, watching UFC, watching a Chi demonstration, watching someone at a high level perform Tai Chi, watching wrestling, boxing. Like, I love all this stuff. The fact that I can be a Wing Chun Sifu and still like that other stuff should not make me an exception. It's the overly tribalistic guys who it's like, oh, I'm a Wing Chun guy who also likes to watch karate. Oh wow, you're amazingly open-minded. It's like that's most of these guys are way too close-minded. Boom. Was Bruce the first Asian to teach non-Asians? Were there some non-Asians that learned karate, taekwondo, or judo before Bruce started? For sure. Bruce may have been one of the first to start teaching Wing Chun to Caucasians. He may not have actually been the first, but he might be one of the first. But he was certainly not one of the first Asians to teach Asian martial arts to non-Asians. That is, no, absolutely not. I don't know who the first one was. Certainly wasn't Bruce. Ark Y. Wong, who's famous Shaolin Kung Fu master in Los Angeles, was teaching Westerners in Chinatown, I think in the 20s and 30s. So no,
I remember you telling me about that guy.
in that. So the whole idea that like the Chinese societies were after Bruce Lee for teaching their secrets, it's like, I've debunked that stuff multiple times on the podcast. That is just a bunch of hot nonsense. Pat 670, Psycho Kickboxer is the greatest martial art film of all time. Have you ever seen this movie?
What?
Have you ever seen Psycho Kickboxer? I've never even heard of it.
Never heard of it.
Wow. Lord Mon update. I have not seen anyone picking their nose yet. All right. It might be it might
already
be
in the movie
cut. So all right, what else we got here? Boom. Bob Wall said he knocked out Samo 3 times while filming their fight in GOD. I heard that too. The late Bob Wall was someone who was definitely susceptible to exaggeration, and he was a little bit worse than Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris is mildly bad at this. Bob Wall, in my opinion, was way worse than this. If you don't like Bob Wall's opinion on something, just wait 10 minutes. He'll tell you something else.
He'll tell you a different one.
Yeah. Bob Wall also sold in auctions to fans his uniform, the yellow uniform that he wore as O'Hara. I don't know how many times he sold that thing to people. Seemingly, he always found another one he wore in the movie.
Wow.
And then shortly before he passed away, he was like wearing it, I think. And it's like, how many fans bought this thing, the authentic one from the movie, right? So first of all, Sammo Hung is an absolute professional when it comes to film choreography. And the idea that Sammo Hung would think he's going to fight Bob Wall, who's like a professional karate fighter, no. I find that very hard to believe. I find very hard to believe that was anything but Bob Wall's fantasy. That really makes no sense. This is not how Sammo Hung operates. I wonder what Grandmaster Baxter would say about Dan Inosanto. Hey, buddy, you look familiar. Junction Street Tigers. 3 years ago, I went to Rome, sat on the same bench Bruce sat on with Melissa Longo in Way of the Dragon. Cool experience. Yeah, it's Dre also has his own experience being somewhere where Bruce Lee was when we were in Hong Kong.
The parking lot.
The parking lot. Yes, there was a photo shoot that Bruce Lee did.
Ooh, did the whole Bruce Lee photo shoot.
Yeah, at what's now the Harbor City Mall in Chimsachoy, where he was like doing jump kicks, and there's like the hotel in the background, and you could see the clock tower there in Chimsachoy. It's changed a little bit. There are a lot more buildings there, but the parking lot is still there. So when I do my Hong Kong Kung Fu tour this summer in August, which, by the way, I'll just put that on the scroll for you guys who are interested. That's one of the places where I take people. Like I took Dre, and then what we did is we recreated the photo. That photo is on your Instagram somewhere, I think, and that was totally dope. It's always cool to be like in those places where Bruce Lee was, the Chingsan Monastery, all these different places.
It's euphoric, man. It was something.
Our good friend Sivu Vincent Benitez, Fist of Interception Institute, heard George Tan is on the run. Interesting. I don't know enough about George Tan. I just know that he directed, produced, I think, some documentaries like the one about Death by Misadventure, and then the other one is
On the
something
Run.
with Vader in the title. So I don't know. Who knows? Boom. All right. So what
Do
else?
we have time to get into the ETD flubs?
Oh, the ETD flubs. You're right. So as I said at the beginning of this broadcast, I basically went to IMDb and I looked up all the different flubs, but were a couple of flubs that I knew off the top of my head, like I talked about before for the other films. But there's one flub that is in Enter the Dragon that is so good. It's so good.
Which one?
So at the end, when Sekin Han starts calling out for all of those guys to start fighting, Wang Chong, right? Okay. And he's yelling at all these guys to go and fight, right? Which, by the way, he was voiced by the American Chinese actor Ki Luke, who was Po in the Kung Fu TV series, the blind guy. And once you know that, he's the Snatch the Pebble from My Hand guy from the Kung Fu TV series. And once you know that, you can't help but hear that voice when Han talks in Enter the Dragon, right? So when Bruce and Han start fighting at the end, all right, Bruce has got his shirt off. He got a couple claw marks from Han. And, they're going back and forth because they started in the courtyard and then they made their way into like inside the palace, right? Where the armory was, right? And so once Bruce, that whole scene is a melee where you have all these extras going at it. So you got all the white karate gi guys, and then you got the black prisoners. By the way, there's another flub with that I'll talk about in a moment. And they're all fighting. And then it was actually really smart in terms of the visualization, because think about it. They would do these pan out shots of everyone fighting. And you have all the prisoners in black and all the karate guys in white. So that meant that when you panned out, you could still kind of see who the bad guys were and who the good guys were. I don't know if they did that on purpose, besides having uniforms for everyone, but like that made it always very visual. You could see who's fighting whom. And then Sekin has a brown suit on and Bruce is bare chested. So even Sekin Han and Bruce Lee's character stand out in the sea of white gi and black gi guys, right?
Okay.
And so they're fighting, and then there's one pan out shot where you see the whole courtyard, which were tennis courts, by the way. If you ever look at the courtyards where all the extras are doing their karate, even though it's supposed to be Shaolin Kung Fu, you can actually still see the lines of the tennis courts on the ground, which they kind of tried to rub off. That was shot at the American Club in Hong Kong in the tennis courts, right? So after Bruce and Han start fighting, then there's this pan out shot of the whole courtyard where you see everyone going at it. And when you look at this whole random like mess of all these people, you see Bruce in the crowd because his shirt is off. And what is Bruce doing? He's directing extras where to go. He's pointing, this guy, go over here, you go over there, you go over here. And Han, Sekin, is just like leaning on a lamppost or something like that. And I can't believe that version, because I'm sure they had a bunch of those scenes where like the editor was not paying attention. So that was a flub that I knew off the top of my head.
I gotta see that.
Also, so you know that Han's left hand is a fake hand, right? Spoiler, right? Before it's revealed that Han's hand is like a fake hand, when he changes after he beats Jim Kelly's character, right? And then he takes it off and you see that, he's got a fake hand. In some of the scenes prior to that, you can actually see his left hand moving. Like in some of those other scenes. Yeah. So it's like, if you pay attention to that, you'll definitely see it. Also, so back to the whole thing with the prison guards. The prison guards, when Han shows John Saxon's character, all those guards, he goes, these are all old drunken men who no longer care where they wake up or whatever, right? I might be confusing that with the version that's in Kentucky Fried Movie. But then when they're all let out to fight, they're all younger dudes. You ever notice that?
No.
So when you see the prisoners, they have the show, they're like all these old disheveled Chinese dudes, right? And then when they go out, they're like they're just stuntmen. So like they're suddenly no longer these old guys anymore, right? They age down quite a bit.
I gotta see that. That's crazy.
Yo, check this out, Franco. $50 donation. Excuse me, yo, Franco. Thank you so much. Well, hey, we wouldn't have an episode without you today. I was scrambling to figure out what to talk about today.
Appreciate it.
Amazing. KFG, I'm the same guy who sent you the questions earlier today. Thanks for taking the time to answer them. It's great to see you and Dre together again. Thank you so much. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon.
Shout out to Franco. Appreciate you.
The live chats. That is totally badass, totally cool. Really appreciate it. And so also back to the hand issue. Do you know when Han is showing Roper his operation, right? Because he basically wants to recruit him. And then you see the skeleton of his hand. Then what is that? And he goes, a souvenir, right? But obviously the implication is that's his hand that he lost, right? And at the very beginning of the movie, there was a throwaway line where Bruce Lee asked, what about guns? And they're like, no guns. He had a bad accident with one and he doesn't allow him on the other. And so you assume somehow his hand was shot off by a gun or something like that. So when you see that the skeleton is not marred by any kind of bullet thing or whatever, but also the other problem is it's a right hand. And Han was missing, was it his right hand or his left? I think it's his left hand.
Missing his left hand.
Yeah. So either way, it's the wrong hand from the one that he's missing. So yeah, so just some kind of like Flubs. Those were the main ones I got. So by the way, if you guys are interested, you can go to IMDb. You could do this for any movie, but if you're interested in the Bruce Lee movies, you go in there and it has a section on goofs. And there are a lot more goofs than what we went today, but you know, it would get a little pedantic, I think, if we went through every single one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's that. Josias Ortiz, do you think that Bruce Lee was so fast? Maybe he possibly did cocaine. Maybe he was a hyper person, more hyped up, or maybe too much caffeine. I don't know about that. I think what people generally tend to miss about the whole Bob Baker letters revelation is that even when you just track what's going on in there, the use of certain substances like that, we're really talking about the last 3 years of his life. Okay. We're really talking about a little bit before he started making those films. And then that all ramped up as he started to earn more money making those movies. We're not the Bruce Lee you're looking at in in 1967 or at the Long Beach demonstrations. This is not a coked out Bruce. Okay. From everything we can gather. So the problem with those revelations, and this is the problem with this information in general, is people don't contextualize these things on timelines. They just go, there were some letters came out where it said this, ergo he must have been doing it since the day he got off the boat from Hong Kong. And no, we're really talking about a relatively short period for the harder stuff towards the end there. So yeah, so anyway, that's important to keep in mind. Well, hey man, an hour has already gone through. Let me just go through some of the final comments. Yes, go ahead.
Speaking of cocaine, have you seen Cocaine Bear yet?
I have not seen it, but a bunch of the students at City Wing Chun say, hey, we have to go see that movie. So we're maybe, now that I'm back from Florida, we will arrange it a day, maybe this week or next week to go see it. I definitely want to go see it. Did you see it?
I do too. No, not yet, but I was thinking about watching it soon.
Yes, absolutely.
It looks off the rails.
Well, it's supposedly based on a true story, but I actually read the account of what really happened, and it was nothing like that. The bear, basically some cocaine dropped. Some police officer was smuggling cocaine, and some of this fell out of a plane, and a bear got into it. But apparently, the bear just ate it and died right away. It's not like the bear went on some kind of coke-fueled rampage or something like that. So to say it's loosely based on a true story is a bit of a stretch.
That's a little sad then.
Bit of a stretch. Yeah. Peter Oss, did Bruce use a trampoline to fly kick Kareem to the head side view behind the scenes footage we see in Game of Death, or was this done unaided? I don't know. I have the feeling actually he did it without the aid of a trampoline, but I could be totally wrong. I don't see a trampoline in there, and some of the still shots indicate that he jumped off the floor, but was there maybe a trampoline off camera or something like that? I don't know. You would have to maybe talk to someone like Steve Carriage to get a better answer on that. I don't know off the top of my head. Also, one thing too, like obviously Bruce could jump really high, but one of the things that makes jump kicks look higher and better is how well you tuck your bent leg, the non-kicking leg. All right. Because, when anyone can jump and do a jump kick, but the other leg is kind of like dangling down there, it doesn't look impressive. But if you could do a jump kick and tuck your non-kicking leg as tight as you can, like under your knee, then it gives the impression of more height. If you want to see a really badass jump kick, our boy Bruce Willow on Instagram, at Bruce Willow, or I think it's at Bruce Willow. His profile photo, he's just doing this sweet flying kick, and you see that leg tucked in. Looks beautiful. All right, I love that.
He's not a leg dangler.
Not a leg dangler. All right. If someone wants to cross train, is it better to do similar arts like grappling with another grappling, striking art with another striking? Is it better to do one first before the other? There's again a very specific. It's a very almost general question that would require specific answers based on the situation someone was in. When it comes to cross training, I've talked about this a few times on the podcast. For some people, it's great. They are able to contextualize info that they get from different martial arts and put it together in a way and synthesize it in a way that makes sense. And other people train in multiple arts at the same time, and they just get confused, okay? Because if someone is standing in front of you and they throw a punch, okay? Well, if you're doing Wing Chun, you might either try to hit the person before he launches the punch. If he already launches the punch, you might slip to the side as you go forward and perform some simultaneous offense and defense. If you were a boxer, you might avoid it and then come back with a combination or slip it to the side and give a punch. If you're a grappler, you might cover up, go in for a clinch and take them down. So the question is, when you cross train, when someone throws that punch at you, which one are you going to do? Okay. Are you going to do simultaneous action? Are you going to slip it like a boxer? Or are you going to clinch the guy and wrestle him? Right. So for some people, they can integrate these different types of arts easily. And for other people, they will just go, oh crap, a punch is coming at me. Do I do the Wing Chun thing, the boxing thing, the wrestling thing, or what? So the problem is that this is different for everyone. We got a couple more in here. Whoa, David Reynolds, $499.99. Wow, thank you so much. I don't even know what to say to that. That is insane. All right, so Dre, if we go to see Cocaine Bear, I'll pay for your ticket.
Appreciate you. Thank you, David. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. That is totally badass. That is more than supporting us. That is really fantastic. Thank you so much. Absolutely humbled. That is totally beautiful. We have another donation here from Thomas Richards. $7.99. I don't know, maybe that's Australian, or I don't know what the A is.
Look at the question. That's a great question.
Yeah. Has there been any confirmation on whether the battle cries were actually his voice or not? Yes. So I actually talked to someone named Darren Chua. Sorry, the doorbell's ringing in the background. Who is actually the guy who helped Steve Carriage do the research on his books. Now, I don't want to misquote because he actually did give me the answer, but it was a couple months ago. So I'm always careful to repeat something that I haven't looked at for a while because I don't want to misspeak. But it would seem that actually Bruce Lee, because all those films were shot without sound, and then they were dubbed later, oftentimes by a Mandarin-speaking actor, and so not Bruce Lee. But apparently Bruce did his own battle cries. So that was something that he did. So that was something that he was into. Now, there's another interesting thing. Now, right now, I don't have the info in front of me because I'm using the computer to do the live stream. My phone is here with this other information. So I'll leave it to you guys to figure this out. If you go to YouTube and you type in Way of the Dragon theme song, now, I'm not talking about the one that happens at the beginning, the drums and everything there's actually a sung song, Way of the Dragon. And it's sung by like a crooner who sounds a little bit like Tom Jones. He's like, the Way of the Dragon, right? That kind of thing. And it was that was actually the theme song for Way the Dragon. Unfortunately, I don't have the person's name in front of me right now. I'm sure anyone who can look it up real quick would be able to find that out. And in that song, Bruce actually recorded the battle cries in that song. So while I cannot 100% say if it's his voice doing all the battle cries in like Fist of Fury or Big Boss, one place where you can actually hear Bruce Lee for sure, Bruce Lee doing the wah, is in this theme song, which they ended up not, I think it's only for the American release of that film. Okay. And you can look it up on YouTube and listen to it. And those cries are actually Bruce Lee's voice doing those. So that lends a little credence to him actually doing it. Yeah.
From Way of the Dragon.
Way of the Dragon, yes. All right. Okay. As a matter of fact, Dre, why don't you just talk for a second while I look that up? Because I feel it's worth it for me
to look it definitely. Up. Thank you, Thomas Richards. Thank you, Thomas Richards.
What was that?
Thank you, Thomas Richards, for the donation as well. He sent us $7.99. That's a good number, because I remember back in the day paying for a pair of 4-stripe Adidas pants, and they cost $7.99.
4-stripe Adidas pants.
4-stripe Adidas. I was like, man, these are good. These are good price, but realizing it was a 4-stripe, and I thought they were 3-stripe at the time when I got them. So I was getting a steal, but no, that wasn't what was happening. It was actually 4 stripes, and I didn't notice until I got home. It was like, damn.
Yeah, okay, so I'm just doing a quick search. I don't have the guy's name with me right now, so unfortunately I can't really find it. But it's there. I'll post it in the comments after this stream. I'll be able to find it. Just a little difficult to do while I'm streaming here. But it's pretty amazing because you can actually hear Bruce Lee's real voice. No, it's not the Joseph Koo one. I know about Joseph. It's not the Joseph Koo one. It's actually somebody with a totally different name. He's like, and the dragon. It's like it's like very Tom Jones-esque, right? Yeah, wow, great. That's incredible. Wow, this has been a lot of fun. Film flubs are really interesting. It would be kind of cool to see some film flubs for some non-Bruce Lee movies as well. I mean, Shaw Brothers had a lot of that stuff. Golden Harvest had a lot of that stuff. We're talking low-budget movies that were cranked out very quickly are bound to have tons and tons of mistakes. So, yeah, that's kind of the way.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah,
wow, this has been a fun episode.
This was a fun episode, and it was great seeing you again. And by the way, I think we're going to go back to doing some pre-recorded episodes soon. But if we can't get one recorded this week, we might be in for another live next week. And then we'll definitely get back in the studio and record some new bangers for you guys. By the way, I have a special episode hitting on Wednesday, and this was an episode that was just for my Patreon supporters, and it's just me, so I don't have a co-host, and I answer questions from both Instagram and Patreon, and I had it exclusively for my Patreon supporters for like the last 2 weeks, and I'm going to release that episode for you guys midweek. So in addition to this live, which you can always obviously rewatch, you guys could see that episode there too, because I answer some interesting questions. It's not as upbeat as when I have a co-host, because it's just kind of me talking to the camera. But it's fun. Slob Jitsu, these live streams are actually fantastic. Thank you. I'm glad you appreciate it. We never know because we're so used to the other format. So we don't know if people actually like this stuff or whatever. It feels a little chaotic. The sound quality is not quite the same as a regular episode. Slob Jitsu, by the way, I've also seen him around on Instagram. Really cool stuff. Really funny stuff. Here we go.
What?
Mr. Silver, Mike Remedios is the singer. That is the guy who sings the song from Way the Dragon. So if you type in Mike Remedios, singer, Way the Dragon, go in there, you'll hear it. And those battle cries in that song are actually the real Bruce Lee's battle cries. Thank you so much, Mr. Silver 66, for that. Thank you so much for all of our supporters today, Subagi. I really like the live shows. Well, we get a good, so maybe we do this again next week. I don't know. You let me know. All right, Dre?
Yes.
Sounds good. You got anything to say before we're out of here?
I just want to say thank you for everyone coming out and supporting us. Appreciate you. Thank you for all the support through the whole 2-3+ years we've been doing this. Hey,
You know that guy there.
shout out,
All right.
shout out to the little KFG.
And we got the other one
England.
on this side here. All right, we got the other one here.
Yeah.
These are just like Han, staying close because you got to fit in there. These are my private personal bodyguards. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us live today. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for the donations. And take care. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much, Dre, for coming by.
And every day I practice martial arts.